Rich, standing by right now, a Democrat who helped prove that incumbents are on very shaky ground this election year. We're talking about the U.S. Senate candidate in Pennsylvania, Congressman Joe Sestak. Here are some things you should know about our guest. He's a former retired, I should say, 3-star vice admiral in the Navy and the highest-ranking former military officer serving in Congress right now. Sestak broke ranks with party leaders to challenge and defeat a veteran incumbent in the primary, the Republican-turned-Democratic Senator Arlen Specter. Sestak claimed publicly that the Obama White House had offered him a job to drop his challenge to Specter. The White House eventually acknowledged offering him an unpaid advisory position through Bill Clinton. Right now, Sestak is trailing his Republican opponent, Pat Toomey, in the polls. Recent surveys put him anywhere from 3 to 9 points behind Toomey. So the president and the establishment Democrats are right now circling the wagons around Sestak. Let's go to Congressman Joe Sestak. He's joining us in Philadelphia. Congressman, thanks very much for coming in.
It's good to be back, Wolf.
Why are you behind in a state which is normally should be pretty Democratic at this point?
You know, Wolf, I've never been this close, this far out. I was 20 points behind Senator Specter at this point, and I was 23 points behind Congressman Weldon. No, we're in a dead heat. We know that. And this race is going to be different. Pennsylvanians are pretty cautious people because we've all had the wolf at our door. And you can see that they're beginning to discriminate right now, as next door in Delaware, we've got Miss O'Donnell all of a sudden there. No, Wolf, this race is going to come down to who do you want on your side? Someone who actually believes we should take Social Security, as Congressman Toomey does, and plunk it into Wall Street where he came from to gamble? Or someone who stood up and bucked his own party and said, I'll always be on your side, even at the risk of my job. I'll fight for them. Right. And that's the choice we have. So I feel very, very comfortable.
Even though you're a little bit behind in these polls, the margin of error may show that you still have about 3.5 weeks to go. Arlen Specter, who was your opponent, he's the incumbent senator. He's going to be at an event with you, at a fundraising event, I take it, in the coming days. Do you feel he's really trying to help you, or is this just for show?
It's a very nice gesture, and he's been gracious. Look, when he called me the night of the primary, I mean, here I am, a wet-behind-the-ear guy in politics. And he called me and said, look, Joe, congratulations. I'm going to support you. And, frankly, he's coming to this event to do so. Look, I want to work with everyone. I grew up in the military, and we don't breed liberals or conservatives, but problem solvers. And heaven forbid a Congress down there that Washington, D.C. just doesn't tend to work together. So I think that, as well as Senator Hagel, who is a Republican, as well as Mayor Bloomberg, who's an independent coming in, kind of says, hey, let's have someone who's going to resolve our problems. That's why you're going to see this election go the way, God willing, that I am the senator for Pennsylvania.
Do you want President Obama to come in and campaign for you?
He's actually coming in this Sunday. And look, yes, I stood up, and I always will remember what John F. Kennedy said once. Sometimes the party asks too much. I'm not a yes man. But I do want to work with everyone. And, yes, I like it when people come in. But at the end of the day, Wolf, in Pennsylvania, I mean, we're all sons and daughters of coal miners and steel workers. We've all had that wolf at our door. For me, it was my daughter's when she had, as you know, brain cancer, and I was fortunate. We're going to make a very cautious decision here that will be the right decision in the end. And they're going to make it on me versus Congressman Toomey, someone who sides with, as he wants to eliminate all corporation taxes, or someone who's fighting for them. So, no, it's not going to be about outsiders coming in. It is going to be about a choice Pennsylvanians make.
Here's an ad, a little clip from an ad that former Congressman Toomey is using in Pennsylvania right now, saying you're basically 100% behind everything that President Obama and the Democratic leadership in Washington stand for. I'll play this little clip.
It's sad what's happened to Joe Sestak. He served our country well. Then he went to Washington, where he's voted in lockstep with the extreme agenda of bailouts, debt, government health care, and job-killing energy taxes. He took an ethics pledge, then broke it. Say it ain't so, Joe.
All right, where do you disagree with President Obama?
Well, I have disagreed with President Obama on a number of areas. For example, I really do believe that what we should have done is had small business tax cuts and guaranteed community bank loans in the recovery bill. I argued vociferously for that. Now, and I would have had that within there because it is the private market, since small businesses lost the majority of all the unemployed, that would regain you and get you going again.
He is supporting small business tax cuts now.
Yes, now. But remember, I also, as I put out in his first year, is I would have had a cap on discretionary spending of all the discretionary spending. I would not have had any caveats as we did for the pay-as-you-go requirement or mandatory spending. Look, the issue here is not just the policies, but how you shape those policies. And so therefore, as my first 2 years in Congress, I actually passed more pieces of legislation than any other freshman member by working across the aisle on elder abuse, on the first funding for autism in 12 years. The issue is, my vote is in the middle of the Democratic Party.
Let me just be precise, though. On these points that in this Toomey ad, did you vote for the bailouts, the government health care, the Obama proposed health care, and the job killing, as they call it, energy taxes, the cap and trade? Did you vote for those 3 pieces of legislation?
Oh, yes. And you know as well as I do, Wolf, well, actually you don't, but when I went to Congress, arrived the year of the recession. It reminded me of my first job of a warship in the Vietnam War area. I was damage control officer. I had to go and help control the damage. We've been torpedoed by policies that Congressman Toomey and President Bush had actually implemented, where they threw out the window of pay-as-you-go, to where Congressman Toomey shaped legislation that let the Wall Streeters actually gamble with our savings. So those were tough decisions, Wolf. I took them because they had to be done. But I've now voted to re-put into place pay-as-you-go. I think it should have been more stringent, as I said. So I always take a vote as an independent who happens to be a Democrat. But, boy, you know as well as I do, we were losing 700,000 jobs a month when that first month of January happened. Mr. Obama came in. The previous 6 months, our GDP had gone minus 6% with 3 million jobs lost. I would take those votes because they were necessary. Look, it's what a public servant does. Regardless of their job, he does what's necessary. And as you know, Mark Zandi and other economists, John McCain's economic advisor, said we would have had 8 million more unemployed. But Congressman Toomey says we would have had a harder down if we had done nothing. What's a harder down than what we had? And so, yes, leadership means actually doing what's necessary for the middle class, not Wall Street.
Congressman, thanks very much for coming in.
Wolf, it's been a pleasure again.
Joe Sestak is the Democratic nominee for the United States Senate from Pennsylvania. We've invited Congressman Sestak's opponent, Republican Pat Toomey, to join us. We hope to see him here in the Situation Room. He has an invitation. So far, he said no, but we hope he'll join us. We're monitoring other top stories, including a police search now underway for the man behind a major security scare at a Philadelphia airport. Plus, imagine this. A woman applies for a marriage license, then